All right, I'm gonna share my screen. Shalom, shalom, family. Shalom, shalom. Gonna get on some really deep things today. I'm gonna put a link in the chat. If anyone wants to come up today, as I've seen a lot of brothers talk about some things, different things and this thing and that thing. So we're gonna talk about some things today. Just gonna talk about E1B1A's true origins, the true origins of E1B1A. All right. Shalom, brother Will. I think your mic muted.
Shalom, shalom, brother. Can you hear me well?
Shalom, shalom. I can hear you. Yep.
All right, good.
Man,
Let's get
man.
into it today. I'm gonna just let you do your thing and flow off you.
All right. So first thing I want to do today is I just want to talk about some of the finds that we was talking about, because we was talking about some things when we were pointing out that we found E1B1A outside of Levant. So I'm gonna be basically first I'm gonna show how these mysterious, it seems mysterious, these mysterious E1B1As that no one really talks about are found. I'm just gonna show how I find this stuff. For example, I follow leads. Like leads is basically, something that someone says that might lead to something else. Like for example, I was searching on like DuckDuckGo, and then I found some information. Right? They were just talking about a little few things. Sometimes they be talking in different languages and different things like that. And they was putting down some information, and I end up finding some information on E1B1A here, pretty much. I'm gonna close this, and I'll put these links in the chat and whatnot afterwards. And then it led me to this source right here, this little link. Now this one's broken, but I end up finding one that works. But what it basically had on it is this, and I'm going to show a paper with mtDNA and the Y-DNA that's going to actually show this 12,000 to 8,000 BC, right? Mesolithic, right? E1B1A that has a K2 mtDNA. So it's going to have an E1B1A, it's going to have a K2 mtDNA, K2A mtDNA, and also one in Turkestan with a J1C10 mtDNA and a E1B1A Y-DNA. And that one would be actually more in the Bronze Age, 2,500 to 16,000 or 1,600 years ago. So this is actually going to be some very interesting finds. Now, the reason why it's important is because I'm going to be connecting this with, a little bit of history that's important to understand. Why are they all the way in, Turkestan? Why are they all the way in some of these places and whatnot? Because Shem, what's important is not every E lineage is going to be either Ishmael or Israel, but they're going to be Shemites. They're going to be Shemites, and that's what's really important.
Right, right. And just to kick off what you're saying, it should be impossible to find these E markers all the way, all the way up in these locations in the north if we were just supposed to be in sub-Saharan Africa all these thousands of years.
Yeah, exactly. I just put a link. I didn't know if I put that link there already, but I put a link if someone has anything to say about any of these things, now is the time to talk about those things. I'll just open this map just for the sake. Let me get back to this little note, because this is a little new note. This is just talking about basically what we're talking about, some lineages that's found in this area over here, right? And what's important is when you think about India and things like that, it's actually important to know that the Shemites, they have some connection, not a lot of connection, but they have some connections with basically India and things like that. I'm just going to read something from the New Complete Writings of Flavius Josephus from book 1, chapter 6. Just talk about Shem. Shem was the third son, right? The third son of Noah, had 5 sons who obviously inhabit the Euphrates, and it said, and reached to the Indian Ocean, right? That's very important. So it reached the Indian Ocean. That's going to be very important for what we're going to look at. Shem obviously has descendants in the lands of Syria and, places like Lydia, which Lydia, when you think about some of the ancient places of Shem, that was just at this little corner right here. And then you obviously going to have Shemites all in the Levant, all in these areas. So that's going to be very important for noting. I'm going to go back over here. And another place they was at, right? There's a lot of places they was at and a lot of different sons and stuff. But it talks about basically a lot of the sons of Eber. It says that a lot of them actually, these inhabited from basically this place. I'm going to show it. It says an Indian river, right? An Indian river and whatnot. I'm just going to put this right here. Well, let's put it on here because I don't know if that thing would know. So let me just get a map of it. So just to get a little pinpoint on the little idea where it's at. So here, so if we get Shemites over here, stretching all the way over here, that's important to understand. We will find Shemites throughout these different areas. And that's why I'm going to show you that we can actually find Shemites throughout these areas in time. So that's going to be very important when taking note of these things. All right, so go ahead.
I was just going to say a funny thing is with that quote, a lot of people like to use that quote to try to connect people's like Dravidians and Austro Melanesians and things like that to those sons right there. And I just think that's funny. It's not possible based off the haplogroup, basically.
That's true. That's true. Because it's all about origin. It's all about its origin. And that's what you're going to see today is some origins of how a lot of people over here and over here end up, going into Africa. Here's just a little information. While Africa has sometimes been basically, account for early Indian Ocean, right? Basically been, in connection with the Indian Ocean world. Studies for food. Now, this is going to be just a study about the food and stuff, just basically talking about, long story short, the connection of the food in Africa and basically the food, the cereals that they find in India have major connections. And they know that the connections were basically all the way to like 3000 BC, right? 3,500 BC and onward in time. So it just lets us know that Africa and India had some early connections. It says an early find of basically certain mullet, right? Certain types of wheat and things and whatnot in Yemen and Sudan predate evidence for overall adoption in obviously, the areas of where you see the Levant all the way to, Egypt and stuff. It just suggests a similar maritime route once the crop reached South Asia. So it just letting us know that crop was moving. And to have crop moving, you got to have people migrating as well, people going to different places as well. We talked about this when we talked about the cities, the people of cities, the migration there is very important. That the cities, when you think of the cities and their migration, there's some people that was in the land basically where you see India or Iran. You can think of like the Afro-Iranians or Afro-Indians, things like that, the cities and stuff like that. And they just talk about how basically they have a connection going into India and Africa, right? But a lot of times they'll say, oh, it's just a recent connection, right? They'll say it's just an early connection. But that's what these ancient finds, the ancient genetics really bring these things together and bring it home more closer than certain papers can do. So that's what these ancient finds are for. I'm just going to go down a little bit. Here's a little paper. This is going to be a paper from a historical quote. I'm going to read what the book is. So it's going to be basically a book basically about the travels and trade in India Ocean, right? It's going to be from 1874 to, the 1900s, 1932. And this is just some interesting things that they say, right? I'm going to read it off here. So they just talk about right here, for 1,000 years before the emergence of the Greeks from savagery or before the exploits of the Phoenicians in the Mediterranean and Atlantic, human culture, right? It basically just lets us know that basically people had connection, right? Centered in the countries bordering on the Persian Gulf, in Elam and Babylon. So remember, Elam is going to be, I'm just going to close this, right? Elam is going to be obviously where you see the Euphrates and stuff, right at the corner of Euphrates. So Elam and Babylon will be over here. So let's talk about in this little corner over here. You're going to have some very important things where the Persian Gulf is right there. Going to go back over here, read a little more on it. Just talk about some things in connection of Elam and Babylon. It says in the whole land of Havilah. Remember that in the Bible where it talks about Havilah, where there is gold, right? It talks about where Havilah is, where there's gold. And the gold of that land is good, right? It just talks about those things and the stones that were found there and whatnot. It just talks about how they had connections, right, with the spread of culture in both directions. Egypt and the nation of ancient India came into being, right? It just talks about how they were connected, right? That's very important. And it talks about, it's also known that with the Arab trade, there was a lot of things going on with the Arab merchants and stuff like that. They was migrating throughout the area, going to India and Africa. It says the growth of civilization in India created an active merchant marine trading to the obviously Euphrates and Africa, right? And eastward, we know not whither, right? Just talks about how they was basically going about making trades from India to Africa, and all these things were getting connected, right? This is very important because we're going to see a major connection with people that are now considered African, but yet we can actually find them in places of India, right? Just talk about one thing, one Arab kingdom after another retain the great eastern coast of Africa, right? Just talks about how the Arabs had connection with Africa. I want to read you something from a little video we did with E1B1B and E1B1A. I thought this was very important. I'm just going to read a little quote from the sources that I put on here, and I'm going to connect it with some things. So obviously, where did the Jews, now it's important to understand this. Let me make sure I plug this up so it don't die. It's important to understand this. Where did the Jews go after 70 AD? This is one of the most important questions to ask. Where did Jews go after 70 AD? There's multiple historical documents documenting where the Jews went after 70 AD. Make sure this thing is charging. All right. So what's important is documented that they went to multiple places. Let's read, for example, some places that they went. So here's going to be a historical quote. It's going to be a historical quote about the Jews. It's going to let us know, because remember, 700 AD was when the Arab started to really increase, the Islam started to really increase. But there was a battle that happened with the Jews in Arabia, because after 70 AD, the Jews stayed around that area, about Egypt and Arabia. And then about 132 and 135, that was the Bar Kokhba revolt, or the Simon son of the Star revolt, that basically Rome sent a third of their army, destroyed Jerusalem again, and sold the city with salt, basically leveled the walls and everything. But look what it says right here. Let us hasten over the sad conflict between Muhammad. This is very important because I'm going to show you something else with Muhammad and what his ancestors did, his progenitor did, and the Jews, Muhammad and the Jews, his war against their powerful chiefs, right, and whatnot, until he had obviously basically, crippled the clans and whatnot for to jump down to the back. You probably already heard of this. Truth4Net had a great video. That's what this is right here. Truth4Net's video going over the Battle of the Foss in 627 AD. And one of the unfortunate blots, basically, you know what happened, right? The people fought, right? 700 Jews were gathered in the marketplace, and basically offered an alternative, basically the Quran or the sword, right? He said, you either got to accept Islam or you're going to die. But the Jews had basically, took martyrdom. They basically died for obviously believing in the Most High. There was no hesitation in their choice. Obviously, they're going to not switch over to Islam. Why would they do that, right? It just talks about basically what happened, right? By the year 628, all the Jewish tribes had lost their independence, right? It's very important. So this is going to be very important to talk about these Jews in Arabia. Why is that important? Because we know that the Arabs had power. I'm going to read another quote. There's going to be another thing, right? In AD 711, a group of North African Muslims led by basically Berber general. This one basically went into Portugal and everything. If you remember, the Jews, they went where? They also went into Portugal, right? They went into Spain, right? So what do we have already? After 70 AD, the Jews went over here, and the Jews are going to be over here, and I'm going to show you what's going to happen with the Jews with Muhammad. Also, remember the Jews are over here. That's very important. The Jews are in this area, right? Also, we're going to find out where the Jews went after the pushing. Let's read another quote real fast. This is going to be a quote from this book. It's going to be basically the Edinburgh Encyclopedia, Sir David Brewster, and it's going to be from 1830. And this is what it reads. It's going to read this. And all this stuff is going to be in the description as well. When Muhammad, right, this is going to be very important. We'll talk about what happened with what he said. Actually, I'm going to read right here. Watch what it says here. The successors of Muhammad, in the process of their victories, had expelled the Jews by violence or oppression from their dominance in, where's their dominance? Where were the Jews mostly at? In Palestine, Arabia, and Egypt. Note that they're in Egypt. That's very important. So they were in Palestine, Arabia, and Egypt. That's where they were dominant. That's very important. Where did they go after that? Abyssinia, Abyssinia, or how do you say it?
Yeah, that's Abyssinia.
Abyssinia. I always get it. There you go. Right. Abyssinia. Now, what's important about Abyssinia, we know that Abyssinia, before this was called Ethiopia, this was called Abyssinia. All of this down here used to be called Ethiopia. All of the lower areas of Africa was called Ethiopia. But this was called Abyssinia. That's very important. Now, the Jews, after they had left this area and Egypt, it's recorded that they went to Abyssinia. And what's important is we know that a lot of the Moors, right? It lets us know that a lot of the Moors or the Muslims or Muslimans, right? And right here is a quote about the Moors in Spain in 1841. It just talks about basically they had a large, right? Watch what it says here, who were already masters of half of Asia and a large portion of Africa, right? That's very important. Have a large portion of Africa. We already know when we talk about the Moors, what it talks about. If you've seen in Flavio Josephus, book 1, chapter 15, he talks about how the Arabians had moved into Libya and called it Africa. So all the upper coasts were called Africa, except the area on the other side of where you see right here. All this over here was called, all this was Libya, and then it was called Africa. Where you see Libya, all of this used to be called Libya, and it used to be all called Africa. But on the other side of the Euphrates, that's where you will see this area over here, and you'll also see this lower area over here. So these areas were not controlled by the Muslim man. That's very important. But let's continue. You see how they say they were in Africa? It says who already had, were masters of Asia and a large portion of Africa and threatened to enslave the world. We can see that with other quotes where we see they talk about how they had a large part of, where you can see right here, another one in 1811, where it just talks about right here that they are less per capita or capable, what was that, capable in Africa. Basically talk about how they were in Africa and everything. So you can see connections that the Muslims were in Africa. You can see that in ancient times, they also had trades with Africa, connections with India, connections with Spain, connections with different.
I believe the brother cut out right now. 1 second, family, 1 second. See if I can bring something up while we get him back on here. 1 second. Let's see. So right now, the brother was just bringing out the information of how we know the Arabs or the Mohammedans or the Israelites came into North Africa, East Africa, and even Palestine and things before their invasions into Spain and Portugal. Now, the brother was also mentioning or talking about the Jewish-Roman wars of Arabia and even Palestine in 70 AD. It's also interesting to note that in 70 AD, some of those Jews made their way into Egypt, and like he was saying, Egypt and also Turan, which in 115 AD led to the Jewish-Roman wars in North Africa and pushed some of those Jews down to the Niger River. So that's just adding on to some of the things he's been bringing out this far.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. Sorry about my cord was, I guess it was unplugged real fast. But going back to over here, what we were talking about. So you see how there's connections with Africa and then up in the Middle East. So you can see all the Jews were expelled. You can see had expelled the Jews by violence, right, from Palestine, Arabia, Egypt to Abyssinia. What's important also about that is that we can also know where they go from there, right? Where do they go after they go to this little area, right? They're going to be in this area, but they themselves end up actually going to India. That's very important. It's actually recorded that some of the Jews in Ethiopia end up going over to India, right? That's where you think of the cities and things like that. It just talks about some of those things of some of the migration of people going to those different areas. There's a lot of different places that talks about this, but I want to get more. I'm going to start getting into the genetics of this. Let's go over here now. So back into it. So just to show that, right? Just talk about some of the kingdoms, right? One Arab kingdom after another retained the great eastern coast of Africa. You can see what's going on there. That's just very important. Just let you know with some connections and everything. I'm going to go down a little bit and talk about some of the genetics that they found there now. So that's just a little understanding that Africa and Upper Coast were very connected tonight and everything. It talks about, you know, the Sabaeans. The Sabaeans were Arabians and stuff. A lot of them, you can see the empires. They had mixed with the Cushite empire. So Jotanites, sons of Shem, had mixed with some of the Hamite sons. This is very important. And it talks about the land, right? You can see where it talks about some of the lands of, if you ever heard of the land of Put, right? The land are half Shemitic and half Hamitic, right? That's very important. It says could not be in Arabia, right? Because basically the faces of Punt were not, they say not Shemitic. Why they say not Shemitic? Because they look dark skinned, right? They talk about a lot of them looked dark, right? But you're going to soon find out that a lot of nations were dark. But you can see right here, later the Sabaeans, Cushites, conquered by basically by new, I don't know how you say it, Yarub, Jacob. Now this is very important. Remember the Jacobite, Jacobite, or how you said I think I just got that word out towards it.
Yeah, Jotanite.
That's a son of Shem, right? Jotanite. It says a Jotanite stock from Yemen migrated into Africa. So the Jotanites migrated into Africa and established themselves in Albania. So what did we just do? What did we just do real fast? We realized that the Jews and many of the Shemites that were in Arabia went into Africa, right? We got Shemites going to Africa. We got Arabians going to Africa. We got Jews going to Africa. We got some of the Jewish going into Africa, right? Jotanites. I don't know what happened to this little thing. I might have to refresh it real fast.
And even to add on to what you're saying, right, brother, is like
I think maps are very important. It's very important to know maps a little bit, right? So remember, Ethiopia was actually as Abahunt, right? It's P. Go ahead.
You still there, brother? Yes. So again, I think the brother's having technical difficulties right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and take over, and I'm gonna just add on to what he was just bringing out about the Sabians going over into East Africa real quick, just until he gets back, just to show the genetic evidence of who these people would be and what DNA we can find with this. So is everybody, can everyone hear me in the chat? If you can hear me, make sure you put it in the chat real quick. But just going to share a quick source until the brother gets back. All right. So just share my entire screen. All right. So one second, family. My StreamYard seems to be glitching right now. Let's see. One second.
All right, we bringing out some fire today. I never seen.
Yeah, my whole StreamYard just
on my
completely
side and your side.
glitched out. Yeah.
Bringing out some fire today. I never seen. All right, so
You good to go, brother? All right. So until you step back in, I'm gonna try to re-share my screen. I really have never seen nothing that's going on with this StreamYard today. I believe this brother's account's getting hacked right now or something, but I'm finna try to share my screen.
You hear me?
And continue to dig in what he was just bringing. Okay, there you go. All
right, there we go. I will share your screen. So I never seen StreamYard do that before from two sides like that.
Exactly.
But we about to bring some fire out. So I'm gonna let the brother show what he's gonna show. So, but just remember what I just showed. So remember, the Jotanites, right? Even the Cushites, even the Jews went into Abyssinia, went into Africa. So we got a lot of Shemites going into Africa. So that's just something that's very important. And we gonna right from there. Go ahead.
So like the brother just said, we're gonna bring another source out to verify that from the genetic structure of the Kuwaiti and Falaka Island populations. All right, this is coming from page 12. We're gonna start at the very top. It says the chronology of the history of the Arabian Peninsula is highly complex. The Arabian people are known to be descendants of two branches, the southern region and the northern central regions. The northern and central tribes were descendants of one ancestor, who was Adon, who descended of Ishmael, son of Abraham, and were known as Arabicized Arabs. But the southern Arabs were supposed to be descendants of Qatan, who was identified with the biblical Yoktan, direct descendant of Shem, son of Noah. They were known as the real Arabs. All right, so we continue on. It's going to say, although Southern Arabian history is obscure, there were many kingdoms established in Southern Arabia, and the best known in ancient record was the kingdom of Saba or Sheba. According to biblical sources, the queen of Saba entered the relations with King Solomon. The existence of Saba can be traced back to the 10th century BCE. In 750 BCE, one of the Sabian kings built the Marib Dam, which was used to regulate the agricultural life of the Sabian kingdom. And it says the Sabians had colonized the geographical nearest African coastland and established the kingdom of Abyssinia of Habasha or Habasha. All right, and even if we go to the DNA or the genetics of the Habasha or the Amhara, these are all the same people. We see most of these people are, E1B1B, Ethiopians as well.
That's right.
And even over here, if we go to In High Pursuit of Language and Prehistory, We see again the Amhara and the Ethiopians. They are all under EM35 right here, 52% and 35 and even 31. So we can see that the sons of Joktan will have haplogroup E.
Facts. So that's a truth, because haplogroup E, you finna see today that haplogroup E at its oldest source. I'm gonna show you its oldest source today. It's gonna be very, very deep, and you're gonna see obviously it's gonna be connected from Will Son of YAH. He's gonna connect it with the cult, with the high priest and stuff like that. So there's gonna be some very deep connections. Now let me scroll down and let me get deep into some of the interesting finds. Now I'm gonna show you a few things, still showing a few leads that led to that M2 that's in Iran, right? His an individual that had captured some information, basically M2. I'm just gonna close this because this is gonna basically be also still talking about that lead. Here's something from JPass that's talking about basically the Hatu cave in Iran. It's just a JPass that talks about the people that they found and everything, the digs and everything of different individuals that they have found and everything. So here it is right here, just a little JPass about basically some of the individuals that they found. So I know some people read JPass. I always try to grab some JPass for them. Here's a PDF. I'm gonna show you basically what they found. Here's just a summary. I got a deeper note with the nice. This is actually this is the JPass. This is actually the JPass open already. This is the JPass. Because if you don't have a JPass, but you still want to read about it, this is going to show you that it's actual real fossils that we're going to look at from Iran, from the Hatu cave and different areas around that area, just to show some things. So this just shows that they do have fossils. But here's another example from a lead, because what it's going to lead to is absolutely a groundbreaking. So this just talks. They're just talking about basically how they found in Iran, basically that E2. That's very important. It's just talking about basically how you see that cave I was just talking about. This is just a lead. Just going to close it. This is just important. Leads are important to show how these things were found and whatnot. Here's what they found. So here's just this is just a sample. This is just a sample of what they found. But I'm going to show that what they found in the actual paper, with the actual paper. So they just show E2, right? E1A, right? Just talk about some of the things that were found. E1B1A, or in the sense E1B1A, right? That's very important. This is just something from Dropbox, right? Some people, they want to see the actual, what's the word I'm looking for? The actual paper, right? I want to see the actual paper too. Even though I believe this, I can see that this is true, whatnot, having connections with these things. But let's get more deeper into the actual paper. So they say they found, this is what they say they found, right? K2 and E1B1A, right? Mesolithic and whatnot, different things like that. We're still digging to find that actual source, right? To find that actual thing. So just some of the codes of what they found there, E1B1Bs and E1B1As and whatnot. Talk about some things that they found, right? E1B1A and whatnot. Still going deeper into it, right? It's important because sometimes in reports, this is why we bring this stuff out. Sometimes in reports, they don't bring out all the information. For example, I'm going to show you with this information, they did find E1B1As in here. But sometimes on a report, right? So like this is just going to be just talking about the natural finds, right? R's and J's and whatnot, what they found there. And then here's just another piece with some of the finds that they already know they have, right? Note that K2A. You see that K2A? We're going to come back to that K2A, and you're going to see it's connected with something you wouldn't even expect. You would not even expect. But right here, you'll see this and think, that's all they found. They only found a small list. You would think that, right? But you gotta dig deep. You gotta dig deeper. So here's just another connection to that study, right? Just talk about that same thing. You see this name right here? This is where we're going to look at. We're going to look at a paper from 2019, and it's going to have so much genetics on it that you'll wonder why they didn't bring out what they found. So they just talk about all the stuff they found and everything on it. But I'm going to.
Yes. So the brothers having, or at least this live is having real technical difficulties today, as we can see, family. But to answer the brother's question in the chat, Jack Roberts, yes, I believe E1B1B will be Ishmaelites. We can trace some of the people who have ancestry or have claims of being Ishmael back to those lineages as well. So yeah, well, people who claim to be Ishmaelites or have that ancestry have E1B1B today, so we can see that.
That's right. Some Ishmaelites have E1B1B, but also other Arabians like Jotanites and other things like that. They will have E1B1B. So if you just notice, I don't know what just happened. My everything just closed. Every single thing that I just had just closed. I don't know how that just happened, but I don't know
They're
if I can
upset
finish.
with your brother.
Isn't that something that they upset? But today you finna see. I said I wasn't gonna do this, but I could not stay. I said I wasn't going to talk of it no more, but I could not stay because you got individuals saying we lying and stuff. So we have to show the truth. But let me open these things back up.
Honestly, it might be those people who's saying that you're lying, who might be reporting your page or something.
They just might be. They might not be wanting to see the actual finds of these E1B1A secret origins. Now I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to show you what we found. So it's going to be a very deep study, right? It's going to be a very major piece of information. And it's about this cave called the Belt Cave, right? And they just talk about, it dates to 10,000 BC, right? 8,000 BC. And you see these highlights right here? We're going to be looking at this actual paper. We're going to look at the actual paper. Just talk about what they found there and everything. And just going to talk about these things. I'm just going to skip down. This is just a really interesting read about the paper. I'm going to scroll down a little more on that paper and everything. It's from Science Direct. And they even, from a long time ago, they even did a little video on Hatu Man and everything. So they did a little basically finding and everything, what they found. They talk about how they were there, they were digging and everything. And they got the reports now. They just got the reports and everything. So I just put this here just to show a little bit of those digs from the museum. I'm going to scroll down right here. So here's a little bit of what they were talking about here. So they got some genetics and everything, what they found there and whatnot. This is just some information. I'm just seeing if this one has some of that information. No, this one just talks about, they also found E1B1 there. Now, if you know, E1B1 has connections with E1B1A and E1B1B. That's just very important. I don't know where that is on this little paper. I probably put the wrong screenshot on this. I'll update it a little later, put the right one. But they found E1B1 there. But now let's get to that paper because I just want to jump right to this paper real fast, right? So is there more finds? Yes. So here's the actual paper. We're going to talk about what they actually found on the actual paper. So I'm going to open up the paper here, right? So I'm going to I was going to get a geneticist to join me today, but he couldn't make it today because I keep forgetting his time is different from my time and it's nighttime for him. But tomorrow I'm going to show you what he talks about when he talks about these ancestral or derived states, that there are other finds that they found, but the ones they want to display are the ones that they want to display. So sometimes you'll see on these papers the ones that they want to display, right? Like what you see right here.
Exactly. I was just gonna say, like the Philistine paper, it only shows the BT marker, but once you go to the supplementary, you see way more BNA.
Absolutely, and that's what I was talking about when I was talking about the ancient genetics of the lands of Sidon and the Phoenicians, that they did have A and B groups there, but they'll sometimes show you stuff like the derived states and stuff like that, and then they'll, some people won't think that that's actually a find that they found there, but finding those ancestor and derived states on those things, right? Like these, you can see these are going to be your ancestor and derived states. And some people thought, when I showed this, they thought they didn't find A or B groups. But Will, if you allow, I'm gonna just show this interesting timestamp I stamped on your video, as I think what you found on your video. I don't know if a lot of people know, but Will have found in the lands of Sidon, like I was saying, the Hamites are A and B haplogroups. And that's what was found in those lands and whatnot. And that's what you was just talking about on the supplementary parts.
Right. We would expect Hamites to be A and B, just based off what we see them having within Africa.
Yep. So right here, I'm just gonna play a little bit.
When we go to the findings,
I think this was
within this, we see a J marker or paternal J marker. We see an R marker and we see a L marker, but we do see a BT marker, and this is the migrations from the supplementary materials of this study. We see more B markers that was found. All right. And we also see a lot of other markers such as J, right? And we know that will come with the migrations of Japheth.
I just want to show that real quick sample from his video. That's a really deep video. If someone hasn't seen that, definitely see this little video of the Japhetic invasions in the Levant in Africa. That's just very important because not a lot of people know about the Sea People's invasion and stuff like that. But going back here, now, this wasn't very important to see these other supplemental parts right here. So you see these little tabs right here at the bottom. Now, I already have a few tabs here that I'm going to mention that they have E1B1A. So 1028. So some parts of the tab I'm going to go to. I'm going to go down over here and just show some of those things from some of these tabs. And we're going to have E1B1A in some of these tabs. That's going to be very important. So I'm just going to jump down to that one. In fact, it's faster with this thing right here. All right, so you can see right here. So it's obviously going to have your haplogroups there, right? And if I remember, some of these have search tools to make it a little easier to find. I don't know if this one has a search tool. Let me see if it has a tool, a search tool. Otherwise, I'm going to have to download it because I know on the tool thing it has it. Otherwise, I'll just scroll and just find it. So some of these have E1B1A. Let me see if this has a search tool because it's a little easier to find these with a search tool. I'm going to just download it. Maybe I could just download the little thing. If not, I'm stuck using this little tool with what it seems like doesn't have a search tool, which is fine. That's all right. Just looking here. Explore, maybe it has something there. Trying to see if it has a search tool. I don't know if this one has a search tool. Sometimes they have little search tools on it. I don't know why this one doesn't. But I'm just gonna scroll a little bit. So sometimes you'll see E1B1As on these things and whatnot. This one, I'm just gonna go over. In fact, let me actually see if I can download it, because if I can download it, let me see if I can. I think it only downloads on this thing, but this little thing don't even have a tool. It doesn't have the search tool. I was searching on my phone with this on finding the, let me see, next tab.
See if changing it, see if you can change it to edit, and maybe that'll pop up the tool, maybe. Oh no, you can't do that.
Nope. To be honest with you, I don't even know I even know it's gonna go on this part like this. But let me see. I'm gonna look for if it has a search. Full screen. I don't know if it has a search, but I'm gonna go to the next tab, and I'll just scroll and just point them out as we go. If you end up for anyone else that wants to see these things, if you go to these things and you have like a better tool to actually search it, you can search them and find the E1B1As here that's on this thing. That's basically sitting in these little areas. I'm gonna go a little down and find it. So now matter of fact, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna try to connect my phone to here so I can show you easier through my phone. I'm gonna try to connect my phone to this little thing. I'm gonna try to connect my phone to Discord and show it through my phone. I'm just sign in on a little Discord and get into the how you say the little voice thing. All right, let me just get to this little thing and then show this little video on my phone. Or I haven't used this thing in a minute. All right, let me just jump into this thing with this other on my phone and display it. I'm gonna try to show it. Don't mind that. I'm just gonna mute that. All right. Let me just make sure I'm muted. All right. All right. So let me just show this off my phone. Let me just make sure I show my screen. All right. Because I don't know how you use that little search tool on there, but I'll show it on my phone. All right. All right, so let me just go to it now. All right, so you can see there's a lot of tabs on the bottom and whatnot. I just want to make sure. Will, you can see that? Can you see that screen? Or is that screen showing?
Yes, the screen is showing.
All right, nice. All right, let me just make it a little wider and bring this out a little bit. And I'm going to show this. See, like it sometimes have like find and replace. You see right there, there's E1B1A. So you can see it's, and look at it, it's like in the midst of all these R's, right? It's in the midst of all these R's. So it's like, you got to scroll down.
Right.
You can find it. Mm-hmm. And you can find it on other pages. Let me just go to another one. So here, it's another one. I'm just going to go to I'm going to type the whole thing, E1B1A. So you can see right there, E1B1A. You can see another one right there. So you get some E1B1As there. I'm gonna go to another one, and it's quite a few. It's quite a few on this little find, and I'm gonna show you another report. I'm gonna show you another report with it on there. You can see right there. It's got 2 on this page.
Yeah, that's a lot of finds right there.
Yep. And it got a whole bunch. I'm gonna show you one with a page with the most on it. See, I saved it. I just saved it, so it's like it's on this tab. You go to the next tab. It's on the next tab, and then you skip the next tab, and then on the next tab. So, and it's on a lot of tabs. It's on a lot of these tabs. All these tabs you'll find it on. But I'm gonna jump to one that I found one with a whole fleet of them at the end of it. I'm gonna go right to it, and you're gonna see it from different areas and whatnot. I'm not gonna take too much time on this because I'm gonna show you basically. So this one has a few.
And what location is these findings?
These ones are actually I'll actually put it down because this one has a couple different locations. This is actually going to be, let me go back over here. These are actually going to be from, you see how they're talking about the basically Iran, and they talk about this name right here.
Yes.
They talk about from Iran, from all types of different areas, because what they're pulling up is that they're actually pulling up what you can see right here, this little name right here. They're actually pulling up what they're saying. Go up a little bit. I'm going to click this. So they're going to have a bunch of them from Iran. It's basically the connection of this. How do you put it? A lot of nations up in the north. So it's just this is like talking about the coverage. I'll show the picture. You'll probably understand. It's like the Umayyad movements. Let me actually go so you can see in this little area. I'm gonna get to this little information here and this information at the bottom, but this is basically what it is. I'll just show you the locations a little bit with a real quick picture. Where they all at? If this one has a picture, let me see. In fact, right on the PDF. I'm pretty sure we'll have a little picture on here. So pretty much they're going to be in the north upper areas.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a one right here, genome for South and Central Asia. That's what it's talking about here. I think this one has a picture, maybe. So little idea, like this is like a little idea, but I'll show you right off on this. So
Right. So
sometimes,
it's just spreadsheet of the different findings, basically.
yeah.
Okay.
There you go. It's a spreadsheet of all the different findings that they found and everything. Yeah, that's right. So right here, let me go to the one with a whole bunch of them on it. And go up real fast. Down. Right. Because one of them had a whole fleet of them, and I marked it down. Go back. So right here, right at this, next to on 7. Let me just go down to that tab. What is it, 715? I'm going to go to that one real fast. 715, right here. All right, so on this one, let me just move that. On this one has a whole fleet of on the next one. So you can see, look how many. This one has a whole bunch. You can see this one. There's an E1B1A right there. There's an E1B1A. You can see some more. You can see some more right there, right? Some E1s there, right? E1B1A, and I'm gonna show you a paper with the female lineages with it, just to show it too, so you can see all these E1B1As and stuff.
Right. While we were supposed to be in sub-Saharan Africa during this time, right?
I'm saying, isn't it something? Now let me, and just for those that's when they see the derived, the ancestral states, I don't know how people minds be thinking that that's not what they found. Let me show you a find that will shut the mouth of everyone. So it's gonna be from here and a different area. So there's gonna be a lead, right? This is an individual who had a Twitter. He was just talking about some of the finds and everything. As I think it's important to make sure the screen's on. Yeah. So I think it's important to mention the leads and stuff like that, right? He just says from E1B1 comes EV38, then comes your E2 and things like that. And he talked about a few things. Let me just show a little bit of that, what he found real fast. So he found something right here, and I'm gonna show you the paper too with it. So right here, he got it from Wikimedia, right? He just talks about right here from the Mesolithic and Neolithic. And he talks about the samples from 12,000, 8,000 years BC, right? Is E1B1B or E1B1A African, right? If we find them outside Africa, right? It says, what do they have with them? Remember, I showed you that K2 that was with those other European lineages. See that K2A? They say they found a K2A, mtDNA K2A with a Y chromosome E1B1A, right? That's very important. He talks about basically, they found them in the Mesolithic Iran, right? That's what we were just talking about earlier with all those other leads and everything. Just talking about that. See what's going on there. Just talking about basically, you can see evidence of the ancient presence of EM2 strain in Arabia, right? Very important. Talks about Saudi Arabia and everything like that.
They got a whole paper out on that.
They got a whole paper. That's exactly. So you can see right here, they even got the connection M2, very old, right? Otis. They say Otis. And remember on the, what do you call it? Y tree or no, Y tree, Y tree. Those SNPs, the age of those SNPs are extremely exaggerated, right? Those are just very important. That's exaggerated. But it is in Saudi Arabia. That's Saudi Arabia. But let me show you something. So is this solid, right? Is it solid? Absolutely. I'm going to show you a paper now with these finds. I'm gonna show you a paper with 2 finds just to make sure everyone if you ever see anyone scoff and say, oh, those are derived and ancestral states. Tomorrow I got a geneticist, he'll come on and confirm to you how that works, the ancestral and derived states. But let me show you this because I love these finds with the female lineages and the male lineages. Let me show you something, what they found. So here's a paper. It's going to have the locations and everything I'm going to show you E1B1A without a doubt, that anyone who sees this is going to know that we found E1B1A outside of Africa. All right. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to show you it with the mtDNAs. So this is probably why they trying to hack us, because I'm telling you what we found is on another level. Actually, this is a different tab. Let me just go to the right tab. Okay. So just letting you know which parts they got the DNA from and everything. All right. So this is going to be from this study. Right. And what study am I showing you real fast before I show you this information? I'm showing you this information from this study right here. Right. It's going to be genomic formation of South and Central Asia. Right. South and Central Asia. Right. 2018. It's very important what I'm going to show you here. All right. Let's see it. Right. Let's go over. Let's see if we found what we think we found. Right. I'm going to go over here. Right. Okay. So now we're going to look at these lineages. Remember, I always talk about this. mtDNA, Y-DNA. These are my favorite notes to find. My favorite ones to find. I'm going to go down. Now, what is that right there? Is that not an E1B1A with a K2A? Where is that at? Let's go over a little bit and find out where is that. Iran. Right. Belt Cave. Right. What age is that? Let's go over a little bit. Right. 12,000, 8,000 BC. Is that an E1B1A? Absolutely. That's absolutely an E1B1A found in Iran. E1B1A is not African. That's a nice find. That's a nice find. That's a nice, and in fact, let me tell you something about this find. I was looking for this find so much that I was getting a headache. I literally got a headache trying to find this find because it was that hard to find. But let me show you something. Here's another one. Here's a mtDNA J1C E1B1A. Where is that at? All right. Let's go look at that. Let's go look at that. Turkestan. You see what's going on there? What year is that? Right? Bronze Age. You can see Iran. Right? See what's going on there? There it is. 2000. Or even let's go all the way over. Just to get a little understanding. So let me make sure this is the right one, because usually I set this at the bottom so I don't. Let me make sure I put this at the bottom so I'm not showing the wrong one. All right, so you see that E1B1A there? And remember I was just showing you that? That's what leads do. That's what leads do. Remember I showed you this lead, how we was leading to those, right? Are those real finds? Are these leads telling the truth? They're telling the truth. They're telling the truth of what they found there, right? You see what's going on there? So let me okay, I got it at the bottom. Let me make sure I do. Or I must have went up real fast. Oh, there it is. Let me just go down. So here's your E1B1A outside of Africa. E1B1A is not African. In fact, that mtDNA is a European mtDNA. That's very important. They probably wouldn't even be dark skinned. They probably would look kind of light skinned. That's very important. So Brian, yeah, go ahead.
Do you have any ancient samples of E1B1A in Africa?
Isn't that something? I believe that there are, in fact, on this paper, I think that they have E1B1A in Africa, if I recall. But that's later on. That's way later than the ones that they found outside of Africa. Let me see if I can find that real fast. In fact, I think this one has the search tool.
And I'm not talking about like, times we would expect to start seeing this pop up in Africa.
Let me see. I'm gonna scroll down. Definitely. In fact, I definitely did see one in Cameroon and whatnot, but that was like, I believe, later and whatnot. Let me just scroll down. This is E1B1B. See, look at that E1B1, right? Just for the, because I told a brother I was going to show him the E1B1 outside and whatnot. So remember, all those come from. So look at that, Pakistan, right? E1B1, Pakistan, even the E and I mean the D&E group from Pakistan. You see what year that is? BC, right? 12,000 BC, 11,000 BC. See what's going on there, right? Just gonna go over just to show you that that's what we found there. I was just showing that for that brother, right? With that H group, E1A, and the DE group. Go down a little bit. just to show that E1B1A. I'm sure it's a little bit down here, if I recall. It's going to go down to it. Should be here somewhere. Going to go. Here's some more E1As, right? E1A, right? Remember, those are all monophylactic with E groups. They're all family, right? I'm just going to go over to show you what is that. Where is that? Remember we was talking about India? That India? They're in India. Remember I was talking about that, how Shemites were linking to India? You can see what's going on there, right? It's going to be in India. So they say they in India right now, right? You can see what's going on there.
That could also go into, you know, how some people or some papers say that DNA split in that location.
That's right. Like the Middle East. I mean, not the Middle East. The what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, the Middle East. Let me just see. I'm just gonna scroll faster here. Well, I think I just saw a E. No, that's E1B1B. And remember, those MT. If you notice, I'm gonna talk about that mtDNA. That mtDNA shows that they came from the Natufians, because that same mtDNA is found in the Natufians. That's very important. We're gonna look at that. So here's one, but this is modern. Actually, you know, that's the thing. If you look at when E1B1A came into Africa, it's about the Bronze Age. It's not even that late. It's about the Bronze Age. This one's from Congo, but this one's present day. So that's not ancient genetics.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. It's merely absent.
It's nearly absent. Yeah. In ancient genetics, E1B1A is absent from Africa. E1B1A is absent from Africa in ancient genetics. That's very important. Is people concluding based upon skin color. Is a racist doctrine that's spreading that people say that E group must be African because they're black. That's literally how they base it. They don't base it upon actual facts. They don't have an actual fossil of E1B1A older than this. They don't
also, right. Also, a high concentration of a haplogroup in a certain area today does not equate to origins.
Absolutely. Exactly. Just because we find haplogroups in a certain area today, we have to consider that we are some of the last generations to live, that migrations do matter, that migrations happen, right? We get massive migrations in areas. So you can see this area. As anybody, have they ever found an E1B1A older than this? Besides the one we found in Saudi Arabia? Besides the one on that white tree that talks about the one in Saudi Arabia? Right? That's Saudi Arabia, though. That's not Africa. And this is not Africa. This is in Iran. And note that, you see this right here? I'm going to show you that the E1B1A is linked to the Natufian. How do we know they're linked to the Natufian? How do we know that? Let's go to the Natufian. Let's go down. All right, so you see this find right here in Jordan? What's the mtDNA that he has with him? K1A is actually linked to the origin. This actually, remember, this is very important. When you see a group like this, you see this E here, this means this is the progenitor of all E groups, right? When you see it has an X, E2, E1, E1B1A, E1B1B, that means this is actually E-M96. E-M96 is the progenitor, the one who makes all the E lineages. And note that K lineage that's with them, right? Why does that E1B1A also have a K lineage? Because that E1B1A came from the Levant, right? This is Jordan. And then note the older one, the one that makes E1B1A, right? This is very important. You see that E1B1 that makes E1B1A and E1B1B, right? That's in Israel, the land of the Levant. So that's very important. And note, you can see different groups note that E group with also a J, also with a K. You can see some of the H, right, that came down there and mixed with them and whatnot. Different things like that. That's a European group, though, that came down. That's just very important just to note. But note that the Natufian have those European female lineages, but later they get those L lineages. Because most likely when Israel came to become Israel, the females that they chose, that the females that they were selected, was the less likely females that you would expect, which is the L lineages. That's why a lot of them have the L lineages later. Yah had blessed them. That's what happened. Why? Because look what's going on today, right? Yah knows all. He's the one that puts the life in the blood, right? That's just a solid fact. What is this I'm downloading? Let me actually closed, so I open it again. All right, so you see that? So that's E1B1A outside of that area, and that's what I put a screenshot on this note. Scroll down real fast, and also you see what I'm saying here. Here's another piece of information connecting the Natufian to E1B1A. Now, if you already know, let me just type this down. V38 haplogroup.
I
Right?
actually have some information on V38 to bring out earlier that connected to the Afro-Asiatics.
Nice. We gonna look at that. So remember V38, when you think the Omic people and stuff like that, they have E1B1A, right? They say E1B1 from E1B1 or E1B1C. E1B1C is actually E1B1A. You can see right here, E1B1C or E1B1A2. That's very important. They come from V38, Omic or the Omen people. How you say that, right? In this little area here. Remember, we talked about how a lot of Shemites went into this area over here. It's very important, right? From Punt going downwards into this area. But notice what it says right here on this little area where it's talking about reanalyzing or reanalysis of the whole genome sequence data in 279 ancient Eurasians reveal basically, some what they're connected to. This is what they found basically. They say this: Natufian samples, right, consist of 61.2% Arabian, right? Natufian is a lot Arabian, a lot of North African as well. 21% North African, 10% West Asian, and 6.8% Omic. Remember, we was talking about that Omic ancestry and stuff like that. We're just talking about in the Levant, right? The transition in the Levant from the Epiphytic to the Neolithic period involved an increase of Arabian ancestry at the expense, right? What does it mean expense? Why the increase of Arabian? Because E1B1B is the Arabian. So the E1B1B increased. But what happened? Remember the biblical narrative? The sons of Abraham or the Arabians, they stayed in the Levant. That's important. They also had areas of Africa, but they stayed in Levant. But the Israelites, those sons of Jacob and all those sons, they went downwards, right? They went downwards into Africa. Later on, they came out. So they say that the E1B1B increased, but the E1B1A decreased. That's what it's saying right here with the Omic people. So you can see right here going down because they're all monophylactic with E1B1. So you can see E1B1 just talks about how the Natufian had E1B1, and then all of a sudden that E1B1 was gone. You still had some E groups, right? That's going to bring your E1As or your E2s, right? From your E groups come your E2s and your E1As. That's very important. But E1B1 brings forth E1B1A and E1B1B. But E1B1B stayed in that area. That's very important that they stay in that area. They stay in the area for a long time. They stay in the area for a very long time. That's very important. So Omic, you think of that, that's actually part of the E1B1A family. So the E1B1A family group are monophylactic, right? With all groups having E1B1. That's very important, right? We can also note that with the female lineages, right? They're not going to just pick up that female lineage out of nowhere. So this is what you just seen there in these finds here. Here's a screenshot with both those finds on one screenshot. So if you ever want to share something with this, here's just a screenshot. You can see right here, there's your E1B1A with your K2A. Remember I was showing you that earlier, that K2A is found in those finds. And then you got your E1B1A with your J1. See, because look, if you go to the other reports, let me just show you here on those, why I was showing you some of these things, like these reports here. Remember that K2A, right? Does this report have K2A, right? K2A in these reports. But where's that E1B1A here? Why are they not showing that E1B1A that was also found in Iran? You know why they're not showing that? Because a lot of times when these things are found, they're controversial. They're controversial. They'll change the whole understanding of what people think are African, right? If people see that E1B1A is not actually African, you know what that would do to the whole understanding of what they believe is what's the word I'm looking for? Is a African group. It will cause them to make E1B1A actually not African, but Middle Eastern. That's very important. that is actually a ancient Middle Eastern lineage that we find in Arabia, and we find in Iran, and we find in Anatolia, we find in Levant, we find it in all over in those different areas. So when you see this one, I screenshot, but this one I realized was actually blurry. So this one's actually kind of blurry. Well, actually, it's not too blurry. But this one has, you can see your arrows there, E1B1A, and you can follow the list, right, to the line, Belt Cave, right? You can see right there, Belt Cave. You can see 12,000, 8,000 BC, right? You can see what's going on there. It talks about it's in this study. So you can see what that's at, right? Iran. And then the other one right here, E1B1A with mtDNA J1C, Turkestan, right? Not in Africa. Iran is in Iran, right? And that's in the Bronze Age, right? Early Bronze Age, right? Iran, right? Iran. What do you think closest Iran, right? Isn't Sumer near Iran? If they was to go down, wouldn't they go downwards through the Euphrates, right? That's very important. That from this area, we know that they themselves have potential of being Israelites. They have clear potentials of being Israelites. There's no doubt when you look at the full picture. When you look at the full picture, there's no doubt. Does anyone got anything to say? Does anyone want to join and say no? Does anyone want to say no? E1B1A is African. Come forth and get this butt whooping, because I don't want to hear no one ever say from this day forth that E1B1A is African.
If E1B1A is African, E1B1B is African.
I'm saying, and E1B1B is one of the most Arabian lineages that we can confirm as Arabian. It's a Shemitic lineage, no doubt. We can follow it. And that's why I put on the playlist. When brothers touch on this stuff, it's important to note what they're doing. Like one of the brothers. That's why if you notice, let me make sure I show this, because I do hear brothers when they speak and stuff. And one of the brothers, what was it? I think his name is Hebrew of Israel. He was doing a lot of studies on E1B1B. I think E1B1B is very important, and I also believe now E1B1B is definitely a Arabian lineage. It's not just Ishmaelites. It is Ishmaelites though, but it's not only Ishmaelites. That's why if you notice on my E1B1A paper, I actually did some updates and I changed it from just E1B1B being Ishmaelites to Arabians, to Arabs, because that's where you get your Jotanites and things like that. They're Arabs too. So that's important to understand, just to make it clear. So it's not just saying that E1B1B is only Ishmaelites, but they would be Ishmaelites and Arabs. So I just did some updates on that just to show that I be watching what brothers be doing and bringing out. But we do know, from my understanding, from looking at these things closely, I'll tell you what I believe when looking at these things. The Olmec people and the E1B1C or E1B1A2, I believe them to be Esau. I believe them to be Esau twins, right? I believe the E1B1A2, right, this lineage to be Esau, and I believe that M2 to be Jacob. In fact, M2 is the one that has 12 branches. Is the only they directly say E1B1A, M2 has 12 branches that come directly from this line. It's the only branch out of all the haplotypes that has 12 branches proceeding directly from the progenitor of, or M2, directly from M2. That's just very important to understand. And the reason why I show these things also to understand that a lot of these dates are exaggerated, but I want you to understand that even in this exaggeration, it fits to the understanding that E1B1A is not African. But this is why I believe more is the way that it breaks, that E1B1 will be Abraham. It breaks, and you will have other lineages. You'll have different lineages of E1B1A coming down, and you have E1B1B. Now, what's important to understand about genetics, let's say that Eber had sons, right? Let's say this was Eber in a sense. I'm not saying this is Eber. I'm just saying in the sense of understanding. Eber can easily have, remember, Eber has a lot of different children, Jotanites and different branches and everything. He can easily have sons that would still have E1B1 for a long time. He can still have sons that are E1 for a long time. And they can make E1A lineages and they can make E2 lineages. But I'm saying that E1B1 shows itself that a lot of the descendants of Abraham, most likely a lot of his brothers and relatives had E1B1, and all of a sudden that mutation brought forth E1B1As. Now, it's important to understand what I'm saying. There could be Jotanites, other Jotanites, or other sons of Eber, or even other sons of Shem, earlier sons of Shem. And remember, that's other sons of Shem, right? Earlier other sons of Shem that can easily have mutated early to E1B1A, right? That's what's very important. That mutation can happen randomly, but what I'm saying is what we found is that M2 points us to the lineage of being the Israelites, and it's one of the most covered up lineages. It's one of the lineages that they try to hide. It just makes you wonder, why are they trying so hard to hide the information to E1B1A, right? Because sometimes when we bring this stuff out, people say, "Oh, no way, it's a lie. This ain't true." So I want to make sure that what you're seeing here is without a doubt. If anyone ever had to say what is E1B1A, it's not African. Show me an older. If anyone ever has to say that E1B1A is African, show us an older find than this one in Arabia. Show us an older find than this one in Arabia, and show us an older fossil find than the one that they found in Iran and in the areas where you see, Turkestan, stuff like that. And remember that mtDNA is connected with that E1B1A. That's very important. But later on, they got different mtDNA. You ever heard that saying? What's the word I'm looking for? They talk about the Nazarites and stuff. Talk about how the Nazarites were white snow and stuff, whatnot. So you can see these ones will probably have lighter pigmentation. A lot of Israelites or a lot of the Shemites may have had lighter pigmentation and later got that later pigmentation when they start mixing with the Cushites, as we see a lot of them, or Cushites, or even some of the Hamites, or in the sense of different Hamitic women, right? A lot of Israelites mix with Hamitic women as well. That's very important. That would bless them. That would just bless them in the sense of being connected with Israel. That's just in the sense of what we have to understand. So I just want to show how this stuff, because anyone can find this stuff, but it's different. It's a difference between bringing it out and hiding it, right? A lot of these geneticists, they already have this stuff, but they're hiding it. And you get the conversations happening in the background with these things. And then when you start seeing what's really going on, that's when you get the picture of these things, what's actually happened. So that's where this stuff came from. It's one of those things that, it's pretty solid. But still talking about V38, I think Will, you was talking about something with V38, because remember V38 makes, E1B1A, right? V38 is your progenitor. It comes after P2, which is E1B1, and then V38, right? V38 is going to be the lineage that's going to make E1B1A. Right? That's very important. That's very, very important. But let me make sure, just for the sake, because we got scoffers. There's always scoffers. In fact, that was a brother that made a whole profile called "Lion Farm is a Liar." I just had to block him because people just be doing the most. And looking at this information, right? And I keep talking about it, right? I bring this stuff out because it's truth, because of the sake of the truth. Yeah. For the sake of the truth. And that's why we do this. But if anyone has anything to say concerning these things, come live and speak. And if you think you understand it, let us see if you understand it, because then we can clarify, instead of being angry that we're bringing out the facts that E1B1A is not African. It's just going to destroy people's worldview. People don't like their worldview destroyed. They like their worldview to stay the same. They don't want a different worldview. They want to make E1B1A, A and B and D African. Yet A and B and D and E are not even connected in that way, right? They break from CT. Why is E? In fact, here's a logical, as anyone this. Here's a logical understanding. And tell me why this is. Let me just go to this while I make this statement. Why is it that DNE, right? Why is it that DNE is considered African, yet they come from CT, just like CF comes from CT? CT makes DE and it makes CF, yet CF is considered European and whatever they want to choose it as, but except for African. It's everything but African. But yet all the D and E lineages, all the fossils of it, and I'm saying fossils because there is no fossil that is found in Africa that's older than the finds that's found outside of Africa. You see what you see this DE right here? You see where it stems from? The DE, to see this long stem right here? It stems in connection, right? CT with CF. CT makes CF and DE, right? These are your African lineages, A and B lineages. But you got to see this on an unrooted chart to know that A and B does not make CT. And that's also on the paper, Out of Africa does not have enough proof, or Out of Africa, reconstruction of Out of Africa not having enough proof. CT is his own lineage, and CF and DE, these are different lineages. This one is Japheth, and this one is Shem. That's what's very important. And we can find the evidence of making them Shem by the actual finds, and the historical documents. That's why a lot of the lineages went into Africa. We can find multiple historical documents of different Shemites and Hamites, right, going into Africa. That's just a very important thing to understand, right? They talk about different sons in different areas, right, going into Africa and settling in the lands of Africa. And the fact of the Natufian being the oldest E's ever found, right? And even when people go to the Iberasians, a lot of people try to connect the Iberasians and say, oh, they were always in Africa. But the Iberasians have European female lineages. So are you saying the female lineages are also African? The Iberasians have European female lineages. That means the Iberasians were in the same place with the Natufians, mixing with the said Neanderthals, which were C groups with European female lineages. That's what was going on. Go ahead.
I don't mean to cut you off, brother, but even the Natufians are classified as proto-Semites, ancestors of the biblical Arabs and Jews. So, and they have E lineages.
Absolutely. That's right. And proto meaning, you're basically original, right? Your original Shemites, right? They will be the original Shemites in that land. And they speak Shemitic. We know that because they got studies on the linguistics of their teeth and the because they got the skulls and the teeth and everything, and they know that they used to speak a Shemitic language. So it's just very important to look at the full picture, right? I was talking about that when I was talking about the Natufian, just to show that, right? We had talked about that before, but they got a paper by a linguistic, right here, and he just talks about the connection and talks about basically, at the end of the day, the Natufian, right? It says right here, I'm just gonna click it and let it open and just talk about it because it's something that's not a secret. It's something that many people know. So when looking at the actual finds, consider it that the E group, the oldest place it's found is in the Levant, and the ones that's found in Levant, a linguistic says this, right? He says this. He just talks about, a few things. It says reason to believe that the Natufians were related to modern Shemitic speaking people of the Levant, right? He just talks about a few things. It says, I suggest that some part, if not all, of the Afro-Asiatic, because Afro-Asiatic is where Arabian comes from. Look it up. Afro-Asiatic is Arabian, right? Semitic. Afro-Asiatic, Semitic, Arabian. It says family, right, originated north of Africa proper. It says since Natufian culture dates to, it says 10,000 to 12,000 ago, it suggests that the age of the Afro-Asiatic language family might also be about that old. You can look it up. Afro-Asiatic, you can see it easily. Afro-Asiatic is a Shemitic language. Afro-Asiatic is where you get Arabian, right? That's the Arabian language because it goes down into Africa and it has multiple historical connections with those things, right? But I wanted to show this thing with the mtDNA, right? What mtDNA did we see with those E1B1As? We see J, which is under N, right? Under R, we see J, which has connections with T. So we see J and we see K. K is under U8. K is under U8. And that's one thing I never talk about on this thing that much, the way mtDNA breaks. Let me just show that real fast, right? So when you see these right here, that K right there, and this J somewhere on here. Let me just open this up so you can see that. just to verify that. So you see this up here, E1B1A with a K2, and then you see your E1B1A with a J. If we go on how it breaks, right? It's not under the L lineages, it's not under the M lineages, but it's under the N lineages. Just gonna go down here. So sometimes they have these groups like L, M, and N. So you can see here, see your M groups. These are your M groups right here and whatnot. But I'm gonna go to N. So N, so your N groups, all N are under each other and whatnot. So I'm gonna go down under N. So remember your R right there, a major branch. So your R0. So underneath R, you'll see, keep on going. Right there, underneath R, you'll see your J, right? Remember I said JT connected. So right there, your J. So that mtDNA is a J group and is also under your U's, which is under R. Right there, your U's. Underneath your U's, you will see under U8. U8, you'll get your K group. So under U8, you're going to get a K group. So that's what we're seeing there, is that we see these European lineages with E1B1A. How in the world is it even passable? How in the world is it academic in science itself? How is it even passable with this mtDNA to conclude that E1B1A is African? That's what's important, because now you see E1B1A in a large portion in Africa. A lot of the genetics that's based today is based upon modern people. The maps, when you see maps of genetics, right? Like family tree DNA and different things like that, when you see maps of genetics, a lot of it's based off of modern people and not based off of fossils. That's what's important. And that's why what we're doing is we're finding the fossils and bringing them to you. Not that we're finding them, not that we're digging them up, but we're actually, well, in a way we're digging them up, having to search, but we're finding these fossils that are hidden. We're finding these fossils that are hidden from the public. When I say hidden from the public, they're not manifest. They're not made and changing the understanding of what is an African lineage, what is actually an African lineage, right? Like a lot of this L3 right here is not African. I found a paper in Yemen. It talks about in Yemen, this lineage was in Yemen since 14,000 to 2,000 years ago. And then also it goes as far as who knows how far it goes in Syria, right? I talked about before that the fossil that they found in Syria predates anyone that they found in the land of Africa, predates the L3 that found in Africa. There's also L2s found outside of Africa, fossils of L2. Different lineages of these lineages are not found in Africa because the biblical narrative is truth. That's important. No one started in Africa.
And just to add on to what you were just saying about L2 and L3 being found outside of Africa, those two lineages are actually said to back migrate into Africa with E.
That's right.
Calling them Eurasian opposed to African.
Absolutely. And you wanted to, you said you had some stuff to share. I'm gonna let you share some things, my brother.
Oh yes, I was just gonna add to how we can see that V38 was a part of the original Afro-Asiatic speakers. So by default, that would lead down to M2 making them so-called Afro-Asiatics or Semitic. So when people try to say that E1B1A is African, it's quite funny. That's all. So I'll bring out a source saying that real quick.
All right, go ahead. I'll let you share it. And E Jackson, I'm if you want me to break down the mtDNA a little more, I could. Amen. Amen. That's right. Amen. Amen. I'm let put on screen share. All right.
So you're on screen sharing now?
Yep.
All right. So this is a quick source from the Genetic of African Populations in Health and Disease. Recently came out of 2019. And it was published by Cambridge University. You go to editors and everything. But it mentions something very interesting on page 25. If we start right here where it says, furthermore, genetic studies that were not concerned with language confirms this. For example, Underhill, et al. 2000, which is the paper that states it, or it states that V38 and M35 lineage was carried into the Near East from Africa in the Mesolithic. The V38 and M35 in Africa corresponds to whatever this is talking about right here, but it goes on to say it is far more likely that the pre-Proto-Semitic speakers went into the Near East at this time, where Semitic languages have long since dominated. But this is the caveat. It goes on to say, but the predominant haplotypes in the Semitic speaking populations are variants VI or V4, but it goes on to say which are equivalent to M89 associated lineages. So this is basically saying that V38 was a part of the Semitic speakers and they spoke Semitic languages, but the predominant haplogroup associated with it is M89, which is on E1B1B lineage. So
That's
we
amazing.
can say that E1B1A is or spoke Afro-Asiatic languages at some point.
That's amazing. That's amazing because, you know, when you think about the African, they say African dialect, like Niger, Congo, and stuff like that. A lot of times that's linguistics, right? Linguistics can easily change. Linguistics can change, but genetics cannot. Genetics can never change, right?
And
But
even that language you were just speaking about is even connected to the Afro-Asiatic language in itself. So that even goes more deep into what you were just saying.
there it is. And exactly. And that's how deep things go, that sometimes when we look at the surface, it may seem like, you know, it's just a simple understanding, like, oh, I understand it, it's simple. You know, people start in Africa, they speak this African language, they're all the same. But rather, if we look at the ancient sources and look at the migration, there's no doubt the way that things migrate, way that people migrate, it's one of those things that sometimes migration can also cause a change in linguistics. You know, it can combine with different people and different linguistics and whatnot, different linguistics. Let me put on a screen share real fast and just make sure I show all this. So what I showed here, this little note, I just wanted to show how this stuff is found. You got to look for leads, right? Sometimes leads lead you to an empty wall or a dead end, but sometimes they lead you to gold. Sometimes they lead you to gold and things that are very important to share to the whole public, to the world, right? To the world, let the whole world know. Let the whole world know, so that it's no doubt that the truth of the matter is that there's a cover up. There's a extreme cover up going on. There's an extreme cover up. Just like on the reconstruction of out of Africa not having enough proof, they know that basically, you know, there's not enough proof to sell an out of Africa idea. There's not enough proof to sell it. There's just not enough proof to try to sell an out of Africa idea. And that's what we see. We see that really, looking at the real sources of these things, there is no out of Africa idea when it comes to, especially when it comes to the E and D groups. E and D groups are not out of Africa. Now, the A and B groups are older African lineages. Yes, A and B was there first, but they didn't start in Africa, but they migrated to Africa very early. They settled in Africa very early. But the E groups show itself to be a clear Arabian lineage. It shows itself to be a clear Arabian lineage, or even in a sense, a lineage that was outside of Africa, right? It was a lineage that was not in Africa. I had another one of these little things open, but real fast, my thing had closed. I don't know why. So I got to open up a note real fast. So, and that's why what I was showing you, first the history, right? Connecting the people to the Levant and and Africa, and also the fact of, here it is. This one I already talked about. This is just the history and stuff going to the place of Ethiopia, which is called Ethiopia and everything, and how this all is connected and whatnot. So I guess, you know, to summarize that, if anyone got any questions, you know, if someone disagrees, right, if they say this stuff isn't true, they can come up and we can talk about it. But if anyone got any questions for verification on anything of the genetics, let me know. But I want to break down real fast this mtDNA real fast. Now, the mtDNA, It's known in science that there are 3 lineages, main lineages: L, M, and N. L, M, and N are the main female lineages, right? Sometimes you'll see that into brackets like this. So your L's, these are all your L's, and then your M's and your N's. So you can see that that's very important. So they'll try to say that M comes from L, but at its earliest source, we can find L, M, and N existing separate. That's very important. That they're actually 3 separate lineages. They don't really make each other the way that they think they make each other, and that's a lot of times what they're trying to basically make the African lineages make the other European lineages, and even in the sense of that, right? When they say like what's the word I'm looking for? The male lineages, right? That they try to say the A lineages make the other lineages, which is not true. There's actually a clear break in these things. There's a clear split, a clear break. But these are your L lineages. These are your M lineages under here, and these are your N lineages, right? Just to give a little understanding of that. Your L lineages, to break a little more detail on your L lineages, right? A lot of time you'll see L3, L2, and L1. And then your L0, you'll see that too. Are these African lineages? Are they Shemite lineages? 100%. We know that there's some that are Shemite that point themselves to be Shemites, but it's also possible that some were with the Hamites. But are they Hamites? Are they Shemites? Are they considered of Shem? Are they considered of Ham? Remember this: women, when Ham, Shem, and Japheth was there, the women would be basically women that Ham, Shem, and Japheth got, but they will be daughters of either Noah or of Cain, right? They'll be either daughters of Noah or of Cain, or of any of the ancient pre-flood people, right? They couldn't be daughters at that time of Ham, Shem, and Japheth. When Ham, Shem, and Japheth got their wives, those women couldn't be daughters from Ham, Shem, and Japheth. That's very important.
That's
but
true.
rather,
That's true.
Yep, that's right. But rather they would be women that they would have. The later women, the later mutations, like, right? Let's say if Ham had, let's say Ham had M, and let's say Shem had L, female, and let's say Japheth had N, a female having that lineage. And then as the men would mate with the females, they would have mutations, right? That's why you get later mutations, right? You'll have your later groups that will develop from them. And that's just an important thing to note with those things, that sometimes you'll have later lineages coming from that. So when you think of, what's the word I'm looking for? When you think of the female lineages, the reason why we don't really go over the female lineages is because it wouldn't make sense to try to make a female Hamitic, Shemitic, or Japhetic. You can kind of make it like that. You can say basically a female will be close linked to those people, but you can't make it a definitive, basically saying that they're either Shemitic, Hamitic, or Japhetic. Because what if a woman mixed with Ham, and then she mixed with Japheth, and then she mixed with Shem? What would she be, right? We can't really consider her being any of those things, because she herself wouldn't be technically an original descendant of Ham, Shem, and Japheth, because those were men. Ham, Shem, and Japheth would make Y chromosomes. But and also notice they also have X chromosomes, but the female's X chromosome that they have is from their mother. It would root all the way to Eve. Every female roots to Eve. Every female. Also, as every male roots to Adam. But at Noah, that's where we get the 3 sons. Those 3 females could be from one. In fact, those 3 females that Ham, Shem, and Japheth had could be from one line. They could be from 3 different lines. They can be from 2 different lines. They could be from one line, right? They can all be from one line. And that's one of those things that the biblical narrative doesn't go deep into. So, and it's not a lot of sources where we can go deep into those things. That's why it's in a way male-based when you want to find out who is who. Because a lot of times the biblical narrative is making it a lot of times male-based, and that's how you find out who is who. But we can still find out who is linked to who today, or in fossils, ancient fossils. But like I was saying, for example, right? We can't say one female lineage was always with one group, because remember, like we found E's with J's and E's with K females and stuff like that. So that's a concept to consider, that female lineages are they're just made by Yah. They're made to be blessed. by the male who they go with. And that's just a blessing for themselves. That's just something just to consider. But when you're considering who may be more closer to Shem, or who is African and who is this lineage or that lineage, you want to look at the fossils and find out and note where that fossil was found. Which we went over intensively when we went over a couple of different things on these things. I got some things on Synthetic Sunday playlist where me and Will went over L3 and some different things like that. And I know a brother that went over L2, and these lineages are not African. L3 and L2 are not African lineages. Even if L3 was if L3 made M and N, let's say L3 made M and N. If L3 made M and M, they're all part, let's say they're all from Eve, right? Down, right? Keep going down. And then you'll get these 3 females that seemingly basically stuck with a majority of who they stuck with. Like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, basically M basically went to the islands far out to like Australia and stuff like that, and India. And then you'll have N as being a lot of time in Europe, and L did go into parts of Africa. But remember, Africa is a continent that they would migrate into. They would enter into Africa, which L3, the oldest L3s, are outside of Africa. That's just very important to know. That no one can. Yep, go ahead.
I was about to say, it's also funny to add that a lot of Ashkenazis have L3 mtDNA too.
That's interesting. They do? That's interesting. I seen them with L2s. I didn't see much L3s, but I did see some L2s in their lineages in some of the Ashkenazi finds. Yeah, that's what when you think of females, don't really think of Ham, Shem, or Japheth. Just think that they're from Eve, but some stuck with who they stuck with. Right. Some got with this person or that person, and you'll see it dominant with certain groups. With certain groups, you'll see it dominant with certain groups. So I guess to make that clear, female lineage is one of those things that it's more important to note who they're traveling with. What's the male that they're traveling with? Because the female lineage would technically be blessed, especially if she links with Israel. Either one of these link with Israel. But remember, in the time of the biblical time, a lot of times Yah didn't want them to mix with different nations because of their culture, because they would lead them to worship idols and stuff like that. So that's just something to consider when it comes to the female lineage. It's not something to call Ham, Shem, or Japheth, even though it is known in science about the 3 splits of L, M, and N, but necessarily you wouldn't call it Ham, Shem, and Japheth. But you could say that some are mainly with Japheth, some are mainly with Ham, and some are mainly with Shem. You could say that in a way. But that would be even limited to its understanding to even consider that. So I guess, just to make it clear, the female lineage, not a lot of history or not a lot of information to go into it, but we can note migration with female lineages. We can note migration. Like, for example, you see how if I close L3, they'll say all these are monophylactic under L3. It's possible. It's definitely possible that L3 makes all those. It's definitely possible. Do I believe that? No, I don't believe that, because I believe that those lineages will be having a different branch somewhere, but they're just not showing that. That's also in the Africa, the reconstruction of out of Africa not having enough proof. But necessarily, they would lead to a woman that would be Eve, right? Sometimes they try to say, your early lineages will lead up to basically an ancestor that would be your original Eve and whatnot. That's just one of those things that when it comes to the female lineage, right, you can't really say, what's the word I'm looking for? You can't really say one is Ham, Shem, or Japheth, I guess, just to make that clear. But the root leads us to lineages that are outside of Africa. Even when I was pointing at that L0, we found L0 in the land of Canaan, right? I talked about that before, that some of the Canaanites had L0 female lineages. And that's just something also important to note. So not L3 or L2 or L1. they had L0, but L3 was found in Syria, L2 found in Syria, different ones found in different areas in the Levant, ancient times, ancient finds. So I guess just to make that a little clear on that. But if anyone has any other questions, or Will, if you got anything else to show, let me know, and we'll show some of those things. Yeah, yeah, they do. Actually, I say they have that K group. Yeah, that's right.
Nah, brother, I'm gonna just see if anybody has any questions for now. But you were correct what I said about that L3. It was L2, not L3.
L2. Yeah.
Yes, but it's a lot we can get into. But I'd just rather, see if anybody has anything to say first.
Yeah, and because we had a brother, he was really raging. I just wanted to make it clear that what we found is for real, for real. We really did find it's for real that we did find E1B1A outside Levant in ancient times, right? We found it outside Levant in ancient times. Just to end this on this note, this is what I really wanted to show, but I wanted to show you the steps on how these things happen. Because I don't want to just show like, oh, I just randomly find this stuff or make stuff up. But I want to show that there's leads that you have to take. Leads, sitting there searching, right? Sometimes it leads to dead ends. Sometimes reading books and find out what's possible connections, what are areas that people have digs at. And then upon finding it, sometimes you need to even find the source. What is it that they're quoting from? What is the source that they're quoting from? Try to find the name of that source, right? And that's what we found here, and then found out there was other finds that they weren't showing, right? That's what this source was. This source was that there were other finds with the derived states and the ancestral states that they weren't showing with these things, right? Oh, here's one. This one is that I'm gonna have to make sure I remember to change this screenshot. But they did also find in that cave, they found E1B1P2 there. I'll update this screenshot. I think to make sure if this has it or not. So just make sure real fast if this was the right screenshot or not. Nah, this not the right screenshot because I took two from this note. This is just a different screenshot. I gotta make sure I put that one on there. But and then on this, right? On this, starting at this tab, going to the next one, skipping one, next one. I'll probably go over this and put more detail because every one of these tabs, there was like 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a lot of tabs with E1B1A on it. A lot of them. A lot of tabs with E1B1A that are on them. That, as you can see, is that many tabs have E1B1A. And then this one is just that solid confirmation for those that some don't like the derived ancestral states. They feel like that's not real, but it is real. But just to give that clarity that based upon the real finds and information, there's no doubt of the fossils that are found, that the fossils that we find are outside of Africa. And the oldest one we found was like 12,000. 8,000. Remember, those years are always exaggerated. They're always going to be exaggerated, but it's just to show you that it's older. They're just older finds. They're just more older finds. But it also lets us know by that female lineage, by the female mtDNA, right? That the female mtDNA would actually be linked to Europe, right? When I say Europe, is not in Africa, right? K2A is not an African female lineage. Right? It's a lineage that would be more outside of Africa. And that makes, by that female lineage, it makes this E lineage confirmed not African. Because one, this is a son. This would be a son, right? By this woman, the father of this person. This is what's important about this understanding. This E1B1A's father had made it with a female having K2, right? In a sense of understanding, it made it with a female having K2, because remember, you get a Y chromosome from your father and an X chromosome from your mother. So he got an X chromosome from his mother being born from a K2 line. So that means that not only was he up in the north, because it would have been one thing just to find an E, but it's also important to find that mtDNA to confirm that he was up in the north for a while. So he was mixing in the north for a while. And obviously, that's a connection with the Natufian. That's no doubt that that's a connection with the Natufian. And then E1B1A also with that J1. So that's very important. That, like, again, right? You can see right here a J group, basically a E1B1A had mixed. This is a female, so this is a female. This is a male, right? So this female doesn't have a Y chromosome, but this female has an X chromosome. So a E1B1A was mixing with a J group, and when they mixed, they had a baby, and that baby had a X chromosome of J and a Y chromosome of E1B1A. That means E1B1A was up there, not only mixing with these females, it was also becoming what's the word I'm looking for? A solid Eurasian lineage, a solid Eurasian lineage. So that's why I love these papers, because it tells the story of the mixing and everything. And obviously finding the females, just a female there that has that lineage, makes a big deal. And also we know that they had K2s there. On this paper, it doesn't talk much about the other K2s, but that's why I showed you that other paper with the same study, that K2s were in that study, that there were other K2 female lineages and some that mixed with other European lineages. But this just shows that indeed E1B1A would be native to basically the North. Eurasia, a pure Eurasian lineage. This would be a pure Eurasian lineage, right?
Indeed.
Even this code is fine. Yep. So I guess with that, family, that's all I got for you today. I'm gonna put these notes in the description. I like I said I wasn't gonna go over this, but it was something that it needed to happen. It was something that we needed to do just to confirm that we bringing out truth. So with that, family, Will, if you got anything else other than that, I'm just seeing if anyone got any questions.
Yes, brother. I'm just say thank you for bringing me on. Of course, man. Like he said, he bringing out this information, showing these ancient samples of E1B1A. Once again, they're not in Africa. So how can this haplogroup, or how can these people be Africans just because they are there today? Just like we see haplogroup are in Africa. You know, what you call these peoples Africans or Hamites? No, there was a migration. So again, just thank you for your work. Continue to bring it out, and man, we'll continue to support you.
Yep, that's right. Amen. And that's absolutely right. So even like the brothers understand, BT makes your A and B lineages. Those are Hamitic. CF will be your Japhetic lineage. Anything under F-M89, it does not matter the SNP. Don't listen to no one when they start talking SNPs and all those things from P58 or things like that. Understand that F-M89 makes them all. So that's a parent lineage of all those lineages, right? Ham, Shem, and Japheth, we got to find, right? So BT makes your A and B lineages. And then from CT, right, a split from BT and CT, right? These are going to be your earliest lineages. Under CT, right, you're going to have your DE lineages, which are Shem, and you're going to have your CF lineages, which are Japhetic. So just to make it clear, beloved family, and all these things are in love, as we know that anyone who's part of Messiah can be saved. But the truth is, the biblical narrative, when it comes to genetics, there's solid proof in the biblical narrative and in genetics that we ourselves are living right now as people of the book. So with that, family, that's all I got for you. Just remember, E and D are not Hamitic. Don't let them try to debunk you with this. Let me just show you what they sometimes try to do. I already talked about it, but if they try to bring out that D0, tell them that that's a modern find. That's not an ancient find. Make sure you look at fossils when you want to look at these things. And if they don't have an E1B1A older than the one we found today, that's because there's no older ones than what we found today. E1B1A is Shemitic and Middle Eastern. So I guess with that, family, that's all I got today. May you be blessed. May you be beloved. And amen.